Okay, I want you to picture your absolute favorite sweet treat right now. Maybe it's a warm, gooey cookie just out of the oven. Or maybe that perfect slice of smooth, velvety chocolate cake. That feeling you get, that anticipation. It's powerful stuff.
It really is.
We all know sugar tastes good, obviously. But why is it sometimes just so hard to resist? Today, we're diving deep into your brain's chemistry. We want to understand the precise pathways that make these foods so appealing. Our mission here is to map that journey, from the first taste of sugar through that complex reward network in your brain, and hopefully figure out the science behind that, well, let's be honest, often frustrating question. Does eating just a little bit of sugar really make you crave more? Does it set up that loop?
It's a great question. And to start, we really need to be clear what we mean by sugar. It's not just one thing. We're talking about a whole family of molecules, carbohydrates. Usually we think of glucose, fructose, or maybe sucrose, that's table sugar.
Right.
But the source material we looked at is clear. Sugar comes in so many forms.
Yeah, that's key. It's not just the obvious stuff like candy and cake. We're talking about added sugars that are, well, almost everywhere in our diets now.
Hidden sugars.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
high fructose corn syrup that might be in your tomato sauce or dextrose in bread.
Even fruit juice concentrate in things marketed as healthy, like granola bars or flavored waters.
It's wild. The sheer amount and variety means our bodies are almost constantly processing it in some form.
Okay, so given how common it is, let's trace what happens with, say, one specific interaction. That first spoonful of sugary cereal, maybe? Or a bite of candy. The sensory process kicks in immediately, and it's highly specialized.
So walk us through it. When that sugar hits your tongue, what's the first step, the initial activation sequence?
It all starts with sweet taste receptors. Tiny things, part of your taste buds. Their only job. To recognize that sweet molecular signature,
Okay.
as soon as they're activated, boom, they send an electrical signal straight up to your brainstem.
The brainstem, that's like the main hub, right, for sensory info.
Pretty much, yeah. It's the routing center. And from there, that sweet signal forks. It travels up into the forebrain.
Okay, forks off. Where does it go first?
One crucial place is the cerebral cortex.
Ah, the cortex. So if the brainstem writes the signal, the cortex is where we actually perceive the taste. Like, this is sweet, not bitter or salty.
That's a good way to put it. The cortex identifies it. Conscious recognition happens there.
Got it.
But, and this is really important, the part that drives our behavior kicks in when the signal moves from the cortex to activate something else entirely. The brain's reward system.
Right, the reward system. This is where it gets really interesting because it's not just one part of the brain, is it? It's more like a network.
Exactly. It's a complex, spread out network, lots of electrical and chemical pathways connecting different brain regions.
And its ultimate goal. What's it trying to achieve?
Fundamentally, survival and reinforcement. It's evolved to answer one key subconscious question. Should I do that again? That warm, sort of fuzzy feeling you get from something really pleasurable, that's the reward system basically tagging that experience, saying, this was good, remember this, repeat this.
And it's not just about food, right? This system is ancient.
Precisely. It's fundamental. The same network lights up for things like socializing with friends, sexual behavior.
Okay.
And significantly, it's also hijacked by addictive drugs. That shows you just how seriously the brain registers this reward signal, even from something like sugar.
Which brings us to the currency. If the reward system is the network, what's flowing through it? What makes it work?
The main currency is dopamine. That's the key neurotransmitter here.
Dopamine. Okay.
It's the chemical messenger saying, hey, pay attention. This is important. Now, dopamine receptors are found throughout the forebrain, but they're not spread evenly. There are specific areas with really dense clusters of these receptors. Those are the crucial dopamine hotspots. They're central to the reward system.
So the amount of dopamine released in those hotspots, that determines how rewarding something feels.
You got it. More dopamine in the hotspots equals a stronger reward signal.
Okay, so let's recap the flow. Mouth receptors say sweet. Cortex identifies it. Cortex signals the reward system. Dopamine starts flowing in the hotspots.
That's the basic pathway.
But there's another layer, isn't there? The brain doesn't just rely on the tongue. Your gut gets involved too.
It does, yeah. And this adds a whole other level of complexity. You actually have sugar receptors down in your stomach and your gut.
Wait, receptors? Like taste buds?
No, not taste buds. They don't register taste in the way your tongue does. Think of them more like monitoring systems.
Oh, okay. What are they monitoring for?
They send signals back to the brain that do a couple of really important things. First, they contribute to feelings of fullness or satiety. telling your brain, okay, fuel is coming in. Second, and this is critical, they trigger your body to release insulin to start managing all that sugar you just ate.
Wow. So the brain gets reports from the tongue saying, this is pleasant,
Yeah.
and from the gut saying, here's the metabolic situation
Sure.
all at once.
Exactly. It's a multi-pronged feedback loop, all focused on that sugar intake. Makes the whole signal very hard for the brain to ignore.
Okay, now let's connect this dopamine signal to things we often hear sugar compared to, like addictive substances. Where does sugar actually fit on that spectrum?
Right. Well, when we look at substances known for being highly addictive, nicotine, alcohol, heroin, for instance, they cause a massive surge in dopamine. It's like they send the system into overdrive. The dopamine release is huge, immediate, and it strongly conditions the brain to seek that high again and again. That's the core of addiction physiologically.
And sugar, it releases dopamine too, we know that.
Yeah.
How does it compare?
It absolutely causes dopamine release, and it's significant, but the sources we reviewed are careful to point out it's generally not the same violent spike you see with hard drugs.
So less intense.
Less intense, yes. But crucially, it uses the very same pathways. That's important. What makes sugar somewhat unique, though, especially among foods, is how reliably it triggers that dopamine release.
What do you mean unique among foods?
Well, think about something like broccoli. Nutritious, good for you.
Right. Not exactly crave-worthy for most people.
Exactly. And guess what? Broccoli causes basically no measurable dopamine effect in the reward system. Zero. Zilch.
Wow. Okay, that's a pretty stark difference. And that really explains a lot about everyday behavior, doesn't it? Our brains aren't necessarily wired to prioritize what's nutritionally best.
Not directly.
They prioritize what gives that immediate, reliable reward signal. That lack of a dopamine payoff for veggies. That's why it's a struggle, right? Getting kids, or even ourselves, to choose the steamed broccoli over the cookie.
Precisely. The brain's optimizing for what it perceives as rewarding, which historically often meant calorie density for survival, not necessarily micronutrients.
Okay, so the brain loves the dopamine hit from sugar. Now, how does it normally handle repetition? This seems key to understanding the problem.
It is key. Let's use an example. Say you eat a healthy, balanced meal, like the same decent sandwich and salad every day for lunch.
Okay, sounds boring, but plausible.
Right. The first day you eat it, dopamine levels spike. It's new, it's satisfying, rewarding.
Makes sense.
But by day 3, day 4, eat that exact same meal. The dopamine spike is less. Day 5, even less. Eventually, it pretty much levels out.
The brain gets bored of it.
Essentially, yes. It decides this repeated stimulus isn't novel anymore. It's not a high priority for attention.
And there's an evolutionary reason for that leveling off, right?
Absolutely. It's actually quite clever. Serves two main purposes, we think. One, it helps us detect if food has gone bad. If something familiar suddenly tastes off or less rewarding, it might signal spoilage, danger.
Okay, safety mechanism.
And two, probably more importantly, it encourages dietary variety. If the reward drops off for the same old food, you're naturally pushed to seek out something new.
Which increases the chances of getting all the different nutrients your body needs.
Exactly. So the brain's default programming is seek novelty, get variety, don't get stuck on one thing. It enforces this by dulling the dopamine reward for repetitive, safe foods.
Okay, that makes perfect sense for a balanced meal. But here's the million-dollar question. What happens if we swap that balanced meal for something super sugary day after day?
Ah, yes. This is where sugar seems to sort of cheat the system.
How so?
If you eat sugar only occasionally, or in small amounts, the effect is pretty similar to the balanced meal. The dopamine response might spike initially, but it eventually levels out. Your brain adapts.
Okay, so moderation is fine.
But, and this is the kicker, the sources suggest that if you eat too much sugar too frequently, that leveling off mechanism breaks down.
It breaks down. What happens instead?
The dopamine response doesn't level out. Even if you eat that sugary food day after day, bite after bite, it continues to register as highly rewarding, highly novel. It perpetually overrides the brain's natural tendency to get bored and seek variety.
Whoa. So the brain never gets the signal to stop paying such close attention. It just keeps seeing the sugary food as this super high-value thing to repeat.
That seems to be what's happening, yes. That sustained, high-level reward keeps firing.
And connecting that back, if the dopamine stays high, that makes sugar behave,
Yeah.
neurologically speaking.
A little bit like a drug, as one source put it. That sustained activation, that lack of habituation, that's why it can feel so compelling, why people can feel genuinely hooked.
Okay, so when that reward system is just constantly being hammered by sugar, the dopamine never really settles down.
Yeah.
That's when we start seeing the negative consequences,
Yeah.
the ones that sound worryingly like addiction.
Yes. That continuous overactivation seems to trigger a cascade of problems within the reward system itself. You start to see measurable changes, like a loss of control over consumption, meaning to have one cookie and finishing the box.
In there.
Intense cravings when you don't have the sugary food, and, really importantly, increased tolerance.
Tolerance, meaning you need more and more sugar to get the same rewarding feeling you got initially.
Exactly that. Your brain's receptors are getting hit so often they become less sensitive. So you need a bigger hit, maybe something even sweeter, to get the same payoff.
That's the overdrive effect in action.
That's the mechanism, yeah. So think back to that big list of sugars we started with. Glucose, fructose, corn syrup, honey, whatever.
Right, all the different types.
It doesn't seem to matter which one it is. When you consume any of them frequently and in large amounts, it kickstarts this whole dopamine domino effect. It sparks that reward, bypasses the leveling off, and if it happens too much, too often, the whole system gets pushed into overdrive.
So the key distinction really seems to be frequency and volume. Overconsumption seems to be the trigger for these more powerful, potentially addictive-like effects because the dopamine just doesn't quit.
That's the core finding, yes.
Oh.
But it's crucial to maintain perspective here. The sources are also clear. Having a slice of birthday cake now and then, that's not going to rewire your brain permanently. It's fine.
It's the constant, often hidden, flood.
Exactly. The relentless exposure from sodas, processed snacks, sauces, all those hidden sugars adding up day after day. That's what seems to really alter how the reward system functions.
Well, that has been a truly eye-opening deep dive. We've journeyed from those little receptors on your tongue
All the way through the brainstem, the cortex.
into those dopamine hotspots in the forebrain.
Uncovered the reason rewards usually level off.
And crucially, explored why sugar, when we overdo it, seems to cheat that system.
It's quite a story playing out in our heads.
It really is. Okay, so for you, our listener, here's something to maybe mull over. If our brains are wired for variety, using that dopamine drop to push us towards new foods, what exactly is changing at the cellular level when sugar stops that drop from happening? Think about that increased tolerance, the loss of control we discussed. Is it about the dopamine receptors themselves changing, becoming less responsive? And if we understood that mechanism better, could it give us clues on how to regain control when those cravings feel overwhelming? Something to think about.